Hey everyone, I'm back with another update. In this episode, I'll cover the Russia Ukraine conflict, immigration related news, the Health and Human Services Department, the Department of Justice, the Epstein Files, and sedition accusations. Of course, I'll end with the noteworthy tidbits. President Trump approved a 28-point peace plan between Russia and Ukraine, which was devised by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner, and Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed that Rubio and Witkoff have been working diligently behind the scenes to finally bring peace between Russia and Ukraine. The majority of top Ukrainian officials agreed to this peace plan, and it was sent to Ukrainian President Zelensky for his approval. The agreement would be monitored by a peace council chaired by President Trump, and when asked for a response if Zelensky rejects the peace deal, Trump said, "Then he can continue to fight his little heart out. I'd like to get to peace. Should have happened a long time ago." On to immigration-related news. In the Charlotte, North Carolina immigration enforcement operation, called Operation Charlotte's Web, over 200 illegal immigrants were arrested in just a few days, and over 30,000 students are no longer attending school for fear of being taken away. Dozens of construction sites have been deserted, with some shifting their work hours to the middle of the night. In response to that, Border Commander Greg Bovino confirmed there will be more nighttime raids. A raid was carried out at a San Antonio club in which 140 criminal illegal aliens were detained, including members of the Tren de Aragua, and the Memphis task force arrested a child rapist illegal alien from Honduras. Pennsylvania may have $75 million federal dollars pulled if they refuse to stop issuing CDLs to illegal aliens and revoke those they've already illegally issued, and police in Wyoming busted a large number of illegals and foreigners who can't speak English, conducting 40 arrests and 133 inspections in only 3 days. Business owners in Michigan were charged for hiring around 250 illegal alien workers, and the Department of Justice sued California for giving illegal aliens discounted tuition, scholarships, and subsidized loans. President Trump terminated temporary status for Somalians in Minnesota after massive Somalian Medicaid fraud was exposed. Apparently, Somalians in the state have been artificially increasing their rates of autism to fraudulently gain Medicaid funding and then sending the money to the terror organization Al-Shabaab. A Portland Antifa member was federally indicted for felony arson after launching an assault on Portland ICE, setting debris on fire while federal agents were blocked inside the building. Police arrested 2 Virginia men for plotting to assassinate ICE agents, and an activist judge blocked the IRS from sharing information to help ICE with deportations. The U.S. House Committee passed legislation to speed up the deportation of criminal illegal aliens, and now it's headed for a full floor vote. The bill expands expedited removal authority, closes immigration loopholes, and mandates fast deportation of gang members and terrorists. The House also passed legislation that will provide support dogs to border agents for their mental health, with Representative Tony Gonzalez explaining that DHS will adopt dogs from local animal shelters to enhance the support canine program. Let's switch to news from the Health and Human Services Department. Callie Means was named Senior Advisor at Health and Human Services, and HHS released a peer-reviewed study that confirms that transgender procedures and puberty blockers cause significant long-term harm. CMS Administrator Dr. Oz exposed massive fraud within the Obamacare system, explaining that the Department of Justice charged, and a federal jury convicted, 2 executives in a scheme to fraudulently enroll Americans into Obamacare insurance plans in order to obtain millions of dollars in commission payments. Oz further explained that since many of the health plans are fully bankrolled by federal taxpayers, it's easy to submit false applications for individuals who aren't even aware they have the insurance, and that these 2 executives ripped taxpayers off to the tune of $180 million. Shifting to the Department of Justice. Congressman Jim Jordan referred Jack Smith's former deputy to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution for obstruction, and the state of Michigan is being sued by Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon because the Michigan Secretary of State is hiding their voter data from the Trump administration. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed new charges against ex-Olympian Ryan Wedding, including drug trafficking, intimidation, money laundering, murder, and witness tampering. In the operation, over $13 million in physical assets were confiscated, $3.2 million in cryptocurrency was recovered, and over 2,000 kilos of drugs and numerous weapons were seized. Wedding is also accused of murdering a federal witness after he was indicted in 2024, and the reward on bringing him in is now $15 million. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino confirmed the FBI is targeting a dangerous network that preys on 11-year-olds and teenagers, with Bongino saying there are more than 300 investigations connected to this network going on nationwide. An arrest related to this case has already been made in Baltimore, and another person was indicted in Arizona. Last for this section, President Trump said he is confident in Patel and Bongino's conclusion that Butler, Pennsylvania attempted assassin Thomas Crooks acted alone. Well, at least someone is confident in them. They seem to end up with nothing in regards to high-profile cases, but they've been doing a great job at rescuing children from human trafficking and other horrible situations, so I'll give them their due praise in that area, at least. Let's move on to the Epstein Files. On the 19th, President Trump signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law, which mandates the Department of Justice to release all classified Epstein-related files within 30 days. The law overrides prior redactions and seals, aiming for full transparency on Epstein's activities, including his ties to prominent figures. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed the DOJ would comply, emphasizing the review of thousands of pages for national security exemptions, but committing to minimal redactions. The next day, the DOJ began internal reviews of the files, with Bondi stating they include FBI investigative records transferred from the Southern District of New York in 2025, and the agency flagged potential delays for classified portions. SDNY U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton's team continued probing Epstein's ties to figures like Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, and Reid Hoffman using the new files. On the 21st, the DOJ filed a motion in the U.S. District Court in the Southern District of Florida to unseal the 2005 to 2007 grand jury transcripts from Epstein's original plea deal, directly citing the new Transparency Act. This could reveal details as to why Epstein received a lenient sentence. The House failed to censure Stacey Plaskett for colluding with Epstein to harm Trump, and after Trump ordered the DOJ investigation into Larry Summers' relations with Epstein, Summers resigned from the board of OpenAI and stepped back from his activities at Harvard. Switching to sedition accusations. The sedition controversy stemmed from a video released by 6 Democrats, all veterans of the military or intelligence community, urging U.S. service members and national security personnel to refuse illegal orders amid concerns over the Trump administration's recent military actions, including naval strikes on suspected drug trafficking vessels off Venezuela and Colombia. Trump framed this as an attempt to incite mutiny, calling it seditious behavior, punishable by death, and demanding arrests. Legal experts, however, unanimously dismissed the claims as baseless, noting the video merely restated longstanding U.S. military law, which requires troops to disobey clearly unlawful orders. No formal charges have been filed, but the rhetoric has escalated tensions, leading to death threats against the lawmakers and bipartisan calls for de-escalation. Democrats defended the video as routine civic education, with Representative Alyssa Slotkin, who was in the video, admitting she is unaware of any illegal orders from President Trump. Trump posted a series of Truth Social rants, reposting the video and accusing the group of seditious behavior from traitors, and escalated by writing seditious behavior punishable by death, invoking historical precedents like the 1798 Sedition Act, which was later ruled unconstitutional, and Revolutionary War executions. Fact-checkers clarified that sedition requires conspiracy to overthrow the government by force, far from the video's content. No civilian sedition charge exists without violence. Maximum penalty for seditious conspiracy is 20 years. The White House later clarified Trump meant serious trouble, not literal execution, which I think was obvious to most of us. Representative Crow reported very disturbing death threats, prompting Capitol Police complaints from the 6 lawmakers. Democrats filed formal complaints with the U.S. Capitol Police and Secret Service, viewing Trump's posts as incitement. Experts expect this entire situation to fizzle out over the holidays. Now it's time for the noteworthy tidbits, which are brought to you today by Zevo Life. Let me tell you about them quick. Looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant, packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Harnessing the best nature has to offer, Zevo Life nourishes your body while driving your performance, vitality, and overall well-being. Each serving is a concentrated source of clean, well-balanced nutrition designed to support modern lifestyles, and just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. It's no wonder that it's receiving rave 5-star reviews. Step into a healthier future with a 30% discount and a 30-day risk-free guarantee by visiting zivo.life and using my promo code. To support my show and to receive 30% off your entire order, enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. All right, let's get back to the tidbits. The U.S. trade deficit has plummeted to a year low of $59.6 billion. Chicago residents are pleading for President Trump to send in federal agents to crack down on crime after another violent weekend, with around 300 youths rioting, 6 people shot, and police officers attacked and badly injured. One of the shooting victims died, and another was left in critical condition. A criminal with over 70 prior arrests, including 9 or 10 felonies, set a woman on fire while she was on the Chicago train. She survived, but is still in the hospital, suffering severe burns covering about 60% of her body. First Lady Melania and Second Lady Usha traveled to North Carolina to speak with military families at Camp Lejeune. After her feud with President Trump, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene will be resigning from office, with her last day being January 5th. Greene said she doesn't want to put her district through another intense primary from Trump, and she also dispelled the rumor that she's running for president in 2028, accusing Time of making up a fake story and lying about her. U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley confirmed Gavin Newsom broke the law by drawing Latino districts using race as a factor, and the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the activist judge ruling that struck down Texas' new Republican-friendly 2026 congressional map. A retired Texas sergeant exposed that Muslims have set up a command center with weapons, armored vehicles, and a training facility, and Governor Greg Abbott ordered an investigation into Sharia law courts operating in Texas. Abbott explained that the Texas Department of Public Safety will help purge any attempt to impose Sharia law, as the Texas Constitution and statutes have banned it. HUD Secretary Scott Turner is working on making housing more affordable by deregulating housing construction, and he recently explained that when building a multifamily housing project, 40% of the cost of that is in regulation, and with a single-family project, about 20 to 25% of the cost is in regulation. FCC Chair Brendan Carr launched an investigation into the BBC for deceptively editing President Trump's January 6th speech to find out if NPR and PBS aired the same edited video, and the FCC banned California from giving federal dollars to illegal aliens by hiding Social Security numbers under an FCC-governed program. According to Punchbowl, congressional Republicans banned Congressman Dan Crenshaw from international travel for 3 months after what's being called an alcohol-related episode during a delegation trip in Mexico. The U.S. House passed legislation that reinstates cash bail and bans local judges from letting violent criminals loose after being arrested in Washington, D.C., and in other D.C. news, an activist judge halted President Trump's National Guard deployment to keep Washington, D.C. safe. The U.S. House voted unanimously to repeal the law that allows GOP senators to sue the government and receive $500,000 each for being spied on by Jack Smith and the Biden administration. A federal grand jury indicted Florida Congresswoman Sheila Sheriff-Phyllis McCormick for stealing $5 million in FEMA funds and making illegal campaign contributions, and Congressman Greg Staub filed a privileged resolution to expel her. Clarence Thomas became the 5th longest-serving U.S. Supreme Court justice in American history on November 20th, with 34 years and 28 days of service so far. Congressman Don Bacon is working with Democrats to make it more difficult to censure members of Congress by requiring 60% of the vote rather than a simple majority. The Washington Post was caught in a fake news scandal, falsely claiming that the U.S. Coast Guard passed a policy in favor of the swastika, Confederate flag, and nooses. President Trump is pushing to open California and Florida federal waters for offshore oil drilling. Senator Joni Ernst revealed that over $500 million in SNAP benefits have been spent on fast food across multiple states, and a bill has now been filed in the Senate to ban SNAP dollars from being spent on fast food. President Trump met with freed Israeli hostages and gave them presidential challenge coins. Zohran Mamdani, the new mayor of New York City, visited President Trump where they discussed immigration enforcement operations in the city. Border Czar Tom Homan confirmed that ICE will continue to operate in New York City, but as for deploying the National Guard, Trump said he'd do so only if Mamdani requests it. President Trump visited Andrews Air Force Base on Saturday to check on renovations and improvements. The Department of Homeland Security is putting $1 billion into TSA airport security screening technology. Lastly, President Trump announced he will pull all U.S. taxpayer dollars from Nigeria due to the genocide of Christians occurring there. That's all I have for today. I'll be back with another update soon. Until then, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast, and follow me on Instagram and X at Shades of Jade Pod. Thank you for listening and have a great day.